Countdown.
Tahniah! Siaran langsung ini dibawakan khas kepada anda oleh Akademi YouTuber Malaysia. Sebuah inisiatif e-didik Malaysia dan Kelab Guru Malaysia. Tumpukan perhatian anda. Siaran langsung akan bermula sebentar lagi. Link sijil akan diberikan di hujung siaran ini. Pastikan diisi dalam tempoh yang ditetapkan. Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat sejahtera. Okey, apa khabar semua? Selamat datang ke Pusat Tuisyen Akademi YouTuber AYU, usaha sama e-didik Malaysia dan Kelab Guru Malaysia. So hari ini saya akan buat, kita akan belajar revision topik 7, job order posting. Okey, sebelum itu saya perkenalkan diri saya dahulu. Nama saya Puan Asmazatu Yusufiziati binti Muhammad Yusof atau Madam Fizi Channel dari Kolej Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan. Okey, so hari ini kita akan bersiaran langsung daripada channel Madam Fizi, ya, Madam channel Madam. Okey, dan ini adalah actually recording untuk premiere untuk revision topik 7 job order posting. Okey, so tanpa berlengah lagi, okey, Madam rasa baik kita teruskan dengan kita punya okey, kita tengok topik kita hari ini adalah revision job order posting topik 7. Okey, kita mulakan with the question, go laju Syam Berhad. Okey, go laju Syam Berhad manufactured specialized equipment for use in the communication industry. Each equipment manufactured is according to the specification set by the customer. And go laju Syam Berhad uses a job order posting and overhead system applied by the machine hour. Okay, now we take a look at the question. Okay, so we can see that the estimated of the prediction overhead and the 3 jobs were carried out in January 2011. Those are MG245, KG280 and PG143. Okay, at the end of January 2011, job MG245 and KG280 has been completed. Job MG245 have been sold immediately. The actual manufacturing overhead costs that were incurred in January 2011 were 26,000. Okay, now you are required to calculate the predetermined overhead rate for 2011. And number 2, Roman, calculate the total cost of each job. 3, Roman, calculate under-applied or over-applied. And number 4, prepare a journal entry whether it is under-applied or over-applied. Okay, now we look at the answer. Okay, for question number 1 Roman, the predetermined rate is 5 ringgit per hour. That is 235,000 divided by 47,000. Okay, and then we look at the answer for 2 Roman, that is the ending work in process inventory for MG245. Okay, the total ending work in process are direct material plus direct labor plus applied overhead. Okay, what is the meaning by ending work in process? That is the work that have not been completed. Okay, so for MG245, the answer is 28,950. For KG280, the answer is 61,190. And for PG143, the answer is 21,780. Okay, now we look at the question 3 Roman. Okay, this time you have to calculate whether it is under-applied or over-applied. Okay, as we know that the applied overhead that has been calculated uh, amounting to 20,000. And the actual overhead that is in the question is 26,000. So, applied overhead is lower than the actual overhead. So, we get under applied overhead for 6,000. Okay, and for Roman, you have to make a journal. Okay, record a journal because it is the under applied. So, debit cost of goods sold and credit manufacturing overhead 6,000, and the narration is to record under applied overhead. Okay, now we continue to next question, that is a Bukit Biru Sdn Bhd. Okay, Bukit Biru Sdn Bhd is also uses a job order costing system for all its products. Okay, and the following information is the year ended 31st December 2011 for Machine Department and Installation Department. Data on job A3, the only work that is not completed by the end of 2011 is as follows. Okay, you can see that the A3 job. Okay, now you are required to calculate the POR, 2 Roman, calculate the ending work in process, 3 Roman to calculate the under applied or over applied, and 4 Roman is to record a adjustment journal entry. Okay, now we look at the answer. For answer number 1 Roman, that is for the POR for machine department, the answer is 2 million over 200,000 machine hour equals to 10 ringgit per machine hour. And for next department, that is the installation department, equals to 55%. Okay. Okay, and then for 2 Roman, that is for ending work in process inventory. Okay, ending work in process, that means the job that has not been completed yet. Okay, so for machine department, okay, the ending work in process inventory, that is the direct material plus direct labor plus applied overhead equals to 28,000. And for installation department, okay, the ending work in process inventory total to 76,765. Okay, now we look at 3 Roman, okay, whether it's under applied or over applied. Okay, for machine department, okay, the applied overhead is less than the actual overhead 5,000. So the answer is under applied overhead. And for installation department, the applied overhead is larger or bigger than the actual overhead. So for installation department, okay, the answer is over applied overhead 64,500. Okay, and then you can sum up the machine department and installation department. So you get 59,500 that is over applied. Okay, for Roman is to record into journal. Okay, because it is over applied overhead, so the journal entry is debit manufacturing overhead 59,000. Okay, and credit cost of goods sold 59,000. I hope that you still remember our formula is O mat kau. O is for over applied, mak is for manufacturing, and kau is for cost of goods sold. Okay, so it is easier for you to remember the journal entry. Okay, next we move to next question, that is the Pegamas Sdn Bhd question. Okay, the Pegamas Sdn Bhd manufactured equipment for communication industry use. Each appliance is ordered according to the specification set before work is commenced. Okay, the Pegamas Sdn Bhd uses a job order costing system and overhead system to be applied based on machine hour. So the following estimate that is related to Perkaunan Sdn Bhd for 2012, that is the machine hour, direct labor and manufacturing overhead. And there is also information for 3 work done in January 2012, that those are MD14, AR16 and MF18. At the end of January 2012, job MD14 and job AR16 has been completed. Job MD14 has been sold. The actual manufacturing overhead costs were incurred in January 2012 were 26,000. Okay, and then you are required to first Roman to calculate the POR, second Roman to calculate the total cost of each job for January 2012. Three Roman is to calculate under whether it is under applied or over applied, and fourth Roman is to record a journal entry. Okay, now we look at the answer for POR. Okay, the POR equals to 235,000 divided by 47,000 equals to 5 ringgit per machine hour. Okay, now we look at the total cost for MD14. Okay, you have to sum up the direct material, direct labor and also the applied overhead. So the answer for MD14 is 28,950. For AR16 is 61,190. And for MF18, the answer is 21,780. Okay, and then for third Roman is to calculate whether it is under applied or over applied. Okay, so we can see that the actual overhead equals to 26,000 and the applied overhead, okay, you sum up all the applied overhead for those three jobs, okay, equals to 20,000. So we get the under applied overhead 6,000. Okay, and then we refer into journal entry. Okay, debit cost of goods sold and credit manufacturing overhead because it is under applied. Okay, so debit 6,000 and credit 6,000. The narration is to record under applied overhead. Okay, next we go to question Berlian Sdn Bhd. Okay, Berlian Sdn Bhd provide overhead cost estimation information for the assembly department and packaging department for February 2014. Okay, in this question you can see that okay, the total for assembly department are 100,000 and for packaging department is 120,000. The assembly department uses the machine hour basis and the packaging department using the direct labor hours to apply overhead costs. Okay, the table below shows the machine hour and direct labor hour. The actual overhead cost for assembly department is 110,000 and the for packaging department is 79,000. Okay, and then you are required to 1 Roman to calculate predetermined overhead rate for every department. Second Roman, calculate total overhead for every department. And third Roman is to determine under whether it is under applied or over applied. And fourth Roman is to prepare adjustment journal entry. Okay, so now we look at the answer. Okay, for assembly department, the predetermined overhead rate equals to 4 ringgit per hour. And for packaging department, the predetermined overhead rate equals to 3 ringgit per hour. Okay, how to calculate the POR? Okay, the formula is estimated manufacturing overhead divided by estimated machine hour for assembly department, and for packaging department equals to estimated manufacturing overhead divided by estimated direct labor hour. And for 2 Roman, the answer is okay, to calculate the applied manufacturing overhead for assembly department, okay, 4 ringgit times 27,000 hours equals to 108,000 ringgit. And for packaging department, the applied manufacturing overhead equals to 3 ringgit times 28,000 hour equals to 84,000 ringgit. Okay, that is the applied manufacturing overhead. Okay, for third Roman is to calculate the over applied or under applied. For assembly department, the applied overhead is 108,000 while the actual overhead is 110,000. That means the applied overhead is less than the actual overhead. So we get under applied overhead 2,000. And for packaging department, the applied overhead is 84,000 and the actual overhead is 79,000. So applied overhead is bigger than the actual overhead. So we get over applied overhead 5,000. Okay, so for overall overhead, assembly department under applied 2,000 and for packaging department over applied 5,000. So for overall overhead, that means the company overhead is over applied 3,000. Then record into the journal entry. Okay, because it is the over applied, so we apply the formula of O mark count. Okay, O for over applied. Okay, and mark is the manufacturing and the count is the cost of goods sold. So debit manufacturing overhead 3,000 and credit cost of goods sold 3,000. The narration is to record the over applied overhead. Okay, now we move to the question B, that is for rubies yang berhad jewellery manufacturer specially designed for export. Okay, rubies yang berhad adopt normal costing method and the annual overhead is estimated at 150,000 and 24,000 hours of machine will be used. Okay, so we can see in the question that is the job for RB1, RB2 and RB3. Okay, you are required to calculate the total cost job for each RB1, 2 and 3. Okay, now we look at the answer. Okay, so to calculate the total cost of job, okay, firstly you have to determine the POR. Okay, the POR is estimated manufacturing overhead over estimated machine hour equals to 6 ringgit and 25 ringgit per hour. And then you calculate the applied manufacturing overhead for RB1, RB2 and RB3. Okay, for applied manufacturing overhead for RB1 equals to 5,625. And for RB2 is 3,750 and RB3 is 1,875. Okay, now then you can calculate the total cost. Okay, because in the question have beginning work in process, so you have to calculate the beginning work in process plus direct material plus direct labor plus applied manufacturing overhead. So the total cost for RB1 is 30,225. For RB2 is 14,850. For RB3 is 9,075. So the total costs are 54,150. Okay, now we move to next question of Janaki Senam Berhad. Okay. Okay, Janaki Senam Berhad is a kitchen cabinet maker. Janaki Senam Berhad uses a job order costing system for all its products through two departments. Those are cutting department and assembly department. So here you can see the cost. Okay, the information of the direct labor hour, overhead cost and direct labor cost. Okay, Janaki dan Berhad uses labor hour as a basis of overhead absorption to the cutting department, while the assembly uses the direct labor cost. Okay, and then in the question, okay, it is provide also the actual manufacturing overhead cost, and also for job related to job D24, okay, for February 2015, Janaki Berhad has received a job D24 from a customer. So here is the information related to the job. Okay, now you are required to calculate the POR. Secondly, to calculate the total under applied or over applied. Third Roman is to prepare the journal entries. And fourth Roman to calculate the production cost for D24 work in February 2015. Okay, now we look at the answer. For one Roman, that is to calculate the POR for cutting department. Okay, estimation manufacturing overhead over estimation direct labor hour equals to RM6 per hour. And for assembly department, okay, because it used the cost, so the answer must be in percentage. Okay, so the answer is 54,000 over 90,000 times 100% equals to 60% of direct labor cost. Okay, for two Roman, okay, to determine or to calculate the under applied or over applied overhead, firstly, you have to calculate the applied manufacturing overhead. For cutting department, the applied manufacturing overhead equals to 24,000. For assembly department, the applied manufacturing overhead equals to 4,800. Okay, now we calculate the over applied or under applied. For cutting department, applied overhead is smaller than the actual overhead. So we get under applied overhead for cutting department 4,000. For assembly department, okay, the applied overhead is 4,800. That is bigger than the actual overhead 4,000. So the answer is over applied overhead for assembly department amounting 800. Okay, third Roman is to record a journal entry. Okay, for cutting department, because it is the under applied, so debit cost of goods sold 4,000 and credit manufacturing overhead 4,000. The direction is to adjust under applied overhead. And for assembly department, debit manufacturing overhead and credit cost of goods sold 800. The direction is to adjust over applied overhead. Okay, for fourth Roman is to calculate the total production cost of job D24. Okay, so in cutting department, okay, you sum up the direct material, direct labor and applied manufacturing overhead. Okay, same goes to the assembly department. So total for direct material are 7,400. Total for direct labor are 2,850. And for applied manufacturing overhead is 660. So the answer for total production cost of job D24 is 10,910. Okay, now we move to second last question, that is perniagaan kenari. Perniagaan kenari create and sell curtain by customer order. Below is the estimated overhead cost for cutting department and finishing department for March 2016. So you can see in the question, the manufacturing overhead cost, the machine hour and also the direct labor hour. The cutting department uses the machine hour basis and the finishing department using the direct labor hour basis for overhead cost applied. In March 2016, the actual data is as follows for cutting department and also for finishing department. Okay, for this question, you are required to 1 Roman to calculate predetermined overhead rate for every department, and 2 Roman is to calculate total overhead cost for every department. 3 Roman is to calculate the total under applied or over applied, and 4 Roman is to prepare the adjustment journal entries for under applied or over applied for each department using the write-off method. Okay, in this question, it is asked for each department. Okay, now we look at the answer. Okay, for first Roman is to calculate the POR. Okay, the POR for cutting department equals to 600,000 over 40,000 equals to 15 ringgit per machine hour. While for finishing department, 300,000 over 15,000 okay, equals to 20 ringgit per direct labor hour. And for 2 Roman is to calculate the applied overhead. Okay, applied overhead equals to POR multiplied by the actual activities. So for the cutting department, the answer is 675,000 ringgit. And for finishing department, the answer for applied overhead equals to 400,000 ringgit. And for third Roman, for over or under applied, okay, we can see that in cutting department, the applied overhead is bigger than the actual overhead. That is 675,000 for applied overhead, and for actual overhead is 550,000. So cutting department is over applied 125,000. And for finishing department, the applied overhead is 400,000 and the actual overhead is 350,000. Okay, for finishing department also, the applied overhead is bigger than the actual. So, the answer is over applied 50,000. And to make the journal entries for each department, okay, for cutting department, debit manufacturing overhead 125,000 and credit cost of goods sold 125,000. The narration is to record over applied overhead. And for finishing department, debit manufacturing overhead 50,000 and credit cost of goods sold 50,000. So the narration is to record over applied overhead. Okay, for B question, that is perniagaan layangan operate 2 jobs ordered by its customer in March 2016, namely LB100 and LB101. In March 2016, LB100 is completed. Okay, so here is the data for March 2016 for LB100 and LB101 for direct material, direct labor, work in process beginning and work in process ending, and also the direct labor hour. The overhead costs are applied into each job on a basis of direct labor. The predetermined overhead rate is 6 ringgit direct labor per hour. So you are required to 1 Roman to calculate the total cost for job LB100 and LB101, and 2 Roman is to calculate the selling price for job LB100 if the perniagaan layangan assume a profit is 40% on cost. Okay, now we look at the answer. Okay, to calculate the total cost, you have to sum up, okay, beginning work in process, because in the question it has the beginning work in process, plus the direct material, plus direct labor, plus manufacturing overhead. Okay. So the total cost for LB100 equals to 51,600, and for LB101, the total cost equals to 42,000. Okay, and then the second Roman is to find out the sales price. If we mark up 40%. Okay, assume profit is 40% on cost. That means we mark up 40%. Okay, for our profit. Okay, so now the total cost, okay, for LB100 is 51,600. Okay, and then the gross profit, okay, you times with 40%, so you get 20,640. This is for our profit. So the sales price is 70,240 ringgit. Or you can calculate 51,600 times 1.4, because we mark up, equals to 72,240. So you can choose which calculation you prefer. Okay, now we move to the last question. That is the CyberSafe Semberhad. Okay, the CyberSafe Semberhad uses predetermined overhead rate in calculating manufacturing overhead. Department AM uses machine hour basis and Department PM uses direct labor hour basis. At earlier, company management budgeted information are as follows. Okay, you can see in the question, okay, there are direct material, manufacturing overhead, direct labor hour and machine hour for Department AM and Department PM. Okay, in the question also provide you the cost information for job order PTG 505 are as follows. Okay, it also provide you the information about the direct material, direct labor hours and machine hours for Department AM and Department PM for job order PTG 505. Okay, so you are required to 1 Roman, calculate the POR. Second Roman is to calculate total manufacturing overhead for job PTG 505. Okay. And third Roman is to calculate cost per unit if job order PTG 505 is 120 units. And fourth Roman, at the end of the year, company actual data are as follows. Okay, so here are the data for the actual cost. Okay, and for 4 Roman, you are required to calculate over-applied or under-applied for each department and prepare adjusting journal entry. Okay, now we look at the answer. Okay, for 1 Roman, okay, the answer for POR for Department AM equals to RM5.20 per machine hour. For Department PM, okay, the POR equals to RM8 per direct labor hour. Okay, now we look at the answer for 2 Roman. Okay, the overhead cost, that is the POR, multiplied by the actual activity. For Department AM, the answer is 80,200. And for Department PM, the answer is 10,000 ringgit. Okay, for question 3 Roman is asking you to calculate the cost per unit. Okay, so to calculate the cost per unit, first of all, you have to calculate the total cost for Department AM and for Department PM. Okay, so you list down all the direct material costs, the direct labor costs, and the manufacturing overhead costs. Okay, for total cost for direct material cost equals to 44,000. For direct labor cost, the total cost equals to 20,800. And for manufacturing overhead cost, the total cost equals to 28,200. So the total cost for Department AM and PM equals to 93,000. To calculate the cost per unit, you have to divide with the total unit. in this question, the total unit is 120 unit. So the total cost 93,000 over 120 unit equals to 775 ringgit per unit. Okay, and then for question number 4 is to calculate under applied or over applied. Okay, to calculate the under applied or over applied, you have to know the information of applied manufacturing overhead and actual manufacturing overhead. Okay, for Department AM, the applied manufacturing overhead cost equals to 1,560,000. That is bigger than the actual manufacturing overhead cost, that is 1.3 million. So for Department AM, the answer is over applied 260,000 ringgit. For Department PM, the applied manufacturing overhead cost equals to 960,000 ringgit, which is lower than the actual manufacturing overhead cost 1.2 million. So for Department PM, the answer is under applied overhead 240,000 ringgit. So for the overall cost, okay, for the overall cost, we get over applied overhead 20,000. Okay, so in this question, they are required you to provide the journal entry for each department. So for Department AM, because it is over applied, so we use the formula O Macau. So debit manufacturing overhead 260,000 and credit cost of goods sold 260,000. The narration is to record over applied overhead. And then for Department PM, it is the under applied. So the formula of O Macau tu terbalik, kan? So debit cost of goods sold 240,000 and credit debit cost of goods sold 240,000 and credit manufacturing overhead 240,000. And the narration is to record under applied overhead. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, for our revision. Okay, so I hope that you can do it all over again and continue to watch the video, okay, to find out the jalan kerja and also the answer. Okay, so what you can summary here. Okay. Okay, for topic job order costing, what we can conclude is, okay, for the question, you can see, okay, the trend for each year, they ask you to calculate, firstly, the POR, the predetermined overhead rate. Okay, secondly, they ask you to calculate the applied overhead, manufacturing overhead. And thirdly, they ask you to calculate the under applied or over applied overhead. And also, they ask you to prepare the journal entry for the over applied or the under applied overhead. So you have to know in this topic, you have to know how to calculate the product cost. Okay, how to calculate the product cost? It must be direct material plus direct labor plus applied manufacturing overhead. But if it has the beginning inventory, WIP, work in process inventory, so you have to include in the calculation. Okay, so that's mean if it has the beginning work in process, so to calculate the product cost equals to beginning work in process plus direct material plus direct labor and plus applied manufacturing overhead. Okay, so I think that's all. Yeah. That's all for today. Yeah. Oleh kerana ini adalah tayangan premier, so tiada sijil disediakan untuk para pelajar. Okay, anyway, saya percaya pelajar semua dah collect banyak sijil kan jika awak mengikuti kelas tuition AYU secara percuma. Okay, so macam biasa jangan lupa untuk dapatkan jadual tuition online terkini melalui portal www.academyyoutuber.com serta dapatkan information terkini. Okey, ingat hashtag bermula percuma selamanya percuma. Okey, so saya hope sebelum kita tamatkan sesi ini, okay, so saya hope para pelajar atau mana-mana yang mengikuti kelas ini yang masih belum tekan butang subscribe, sila tekan butang subscribe dan aktifkan loceng ikon supaya kamu tidak terlepas lagi sesi kelas yang seterusnya. Okay, so akhir sekali saya ingin mengucapkan selamat berpuasa kepada semua pelajar, ya, kepada semua ibu bapa dan juga pada guru-guru. Okey, jangan lupa doa banyak-banyak dalam bulan Ramadan ini. Okey, supaya kita sentiasa diberkati dan sentiasa mendapat rahmat dan diampunkan dan diampuni oleh Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Okey, so saya rasa itu saja ya untuk itu sajalah untuk kelas hari ini. Okey, so terima kasih banyak-banyak. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, bye.
Tuition online percuma. Tuition online percuma. Layari www.academyyoutuber bagi mengikuti tuition online secara percuma. Prasekolah, sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah, semua ada di Akademi YouTuber. Rujuk jadual di laman sesawang www.academyyoutuber.com. Semoga masa terluang anak-anak anda diisi dengan sebaiknya. Tuition online percuma mestilah Akademi YouTuber.
Alah, apa ni? PKPB lagi. SPM pula ditangguhkan. Jenuhlah nak bayar yuran tuition. Pernah dengar tentang tuition percuma? Kami di Akademi YouTuber menyediakan tuition online secara percuma kepada anda semua. Ada prasekolah, sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah, STPM, juga untuk matrikulasi. Percuma je. Jom layari laman sesawang www.academyyoutuber.com.
Dibawakan kepada anda oleh Akademi YouTuber.